try and erase people that operate in that space. Because then I met the people that actually go to those collectives and access. That's right. And my mind was changed, right? But it was only through that engagement. And I can tell you there are a lot of people throughout the state of Hawaii that haven't had any engagement at all with people like the people in this room, right? And if they don't know, then they're just operating off of what their own perspective is. And I can tell you, it's for a very long time, it's been, the status quo has been against this. That's why we ended up with this weird restrictive dispensary regime. That was my first year in the legislature, and Nikos is exactly right. He was there, I was there. It was a very contentious process to even get medical dispensaries passed, and that's why we have the regime we have. There was a huge hesitance at the county level to allow, official medical cannabis retail facilities to exist on these islands. And as a result, we sort of put together a trial run. And 8 years later, it's still there because of the political situation we've been in, right? So, got a time to engage and know that there are people that are interested in getting it right, and that we've made a lot of progress. And so you're not starting from, the 20-yard line. We're past the 50 driving to the red zone, right?
Who are the biggest opponents at the state level?
The evangelical community, 100%. The law enforcement community, for sure, right? And then the remainder of the existing bureaucracy that sort of is just in stasis from the prior governor's regime, right? It's very easy when the governor comes out and says something very direct, like, I oppose cannabis. It's very easy for the agencies and the rest of the bureaucracy that serve, the whole concept of an agency is they're an agent. It's because Josh Green cannot be in 10,000 places at once. So the director of health sits in his stead on a lot of health meetings, right? And so when they have clear guidance from the top, it's easy for them to make the convenient decision to go, I'm just gonna ignore cannabis policy because the man upstairs doesn't want it anyway, right? So what we've tried to do is shift that now that we have different guidance. And to her credit, and the Attorney General has taken that on and has weathered a mountain of criticism from the law enforcement community. As the state's top law enforcement officer, has weathered a mountain of criticism for even attempting to engage in this dialogue with us. I think she should be applauded by everyone in this room, but you might read the bill and hate it. So, I think that's what I'm asking is engage. That's the only answer.
If I could also give credit to Senator Keaholole, in 2018, he responded yes to a single item poll that Drug Policy Forum did of candidates and office holders for office as to whether they supported adult use cannabis legalization. He said yes. His opponent Ken Ito said no. He wound up winning. The legislature is also on record in 2019. They passed HCR 89, authored by me, but also by Senator, then Assemblyman Representative Joyce M. Buenaventura, asking the Congress to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act entirely. And we got all but a few votes in the Senate and all but about a dozen votes in the House. We also asked them to provide for financial services in the cannabis sector. So, any other questions from the audience? We have about 15 minutes left.
Yes.
Patrick.
So in regards to the bill from Senator Ava, which I've come to understand that it's to prop up the medical side. At the same time, we're looking at recreational bill. Where do you guys stand on top of improving on top of our current medical system to prop up the legacy guys who operate in the collective space, Kanakas, working the land? We would like to see some of that and not just thrown out and then straight into a recreational format. We feel like from doing this long before the dispensaries opened up, that we had a system that worked for people within the community from even before we had our our medical system. So this new one that sounds from North and Alba sounds pretty good. How, can you guys stand behind that, or what are we gonna see, you know, in like language coming into January about propping up the medical while we get recreational looming? So it's super important, because that's like where a lot of the legacy farmers and the collectives fall into, medical. So for us to change from a medical format, collective, aloha aina, stewarding the land and taking care of our community, you know, to recreational format of, you know, more economic driven, it's a little concerning, you know, where like Jason falls into that category of where Carrie, you know, are we gonna get left to the wayside, or do we just not have a medical system anymore? You know, because medical, what we do to grow in the sun and in the ground is much different, like Uncle Alika said, than current dispensaries, how they grow indoors with salt-based chemicals. You know, much more medicinal value, I would say, from what the collectives do. So, you know, that's just the questions that we have right now, seeing what's coming forward. And we haven't seen anything from the Attorney General, and I thought that there was supposed to be a little bit more of an open kind of panel while the Attorney General was gonna be doing this, right? And like more, a little bit more community engagement, or there's still supposed to be some stakeholders that were gonna be part of that. But it seemed like it was a closed door situation that the Attorney General took on drafting this bill. So, I mean, it's a little concerning.
Could anybody speak to maintaining a robust medical system in a prospective adult use model? I think our medical system leaves a lot to be desired. I will just say that, you know, from my long experience in California, when I heard about the number of patients, I understand that, you know, Jason was working outside of the confines of our restricted medical marijuana law. He was serving over 1,000 patients.
They needed it.
And over 1,000 patients and 1,200 plants, that is not a disproportionate amount of cannabis to be grown. But I agree that we need to maintain a robust medical system, or else it will just wither on the vine. And I hope that a potential bill will include provisions for a system whereby, I don't know what the cap is going to be, if there is going to be a cap, but we need to facilitate medical access for those who need it. You know, when I started, you know, my medical cannabis journey in Sacramento, a lot of patients got their medicine for free if they were veterans or they were in need or ill.
That's the system.
So yeah, that's how it works.
That's how it works.
Compassion can be a part of it.
And it's so attached to our food systems too. A lot of us, we grow food along with the medicine. And so we ripped away the medicine and the ability, you know, the state is giving us a position where it's like giving us our privilege, or they allow us to do this work, you know, in stewarding these lands and trying to provide for the community. You know, it feels like it's being ripped away, you know, with recreation, you know, because we don't know how to operate in that space. This is how we've operated in this space in the medical format for many years, and then prior to that was under complete madness of the Green Harvest program, you know, so this is all like 10, 12 years, like many years in the making of like a medical cannabis program that's, you know, sustained and sustainable to a land and economically, community. It's like, you know.
I can speak a little bit to, I know that there is a movement to keep both systems in place, the medical and.
Not from you though, not from you.
Yeah.
No, it's not from you. It wasn't from you last year. It wasn't from you.
Well, I think we can separate, the interests of individuals that I
I'm not interested in what you
represented
have to
last
say,
year.
Randy. Like,
I got to say, I don't have to say anything.
no, I'm talking to the senators.
Well, I'm the only senator, I cannot speak for everyone.
Right.
So
Right.
what I said about the collectives was what
No,
I just said. You
yeah.
know, originally, the provision that allowed for the collectives in the law to exist was because there was a recognition that the legislature couldn't agree on more than the specific number of dispensaries on each island that the law ended up allowing for. And so in recognition that there was gonna be this ramp up, and there was still a limited number of dispensaries on every island, that caregivers could grow multiple plants to account for the access issue that was created by the fact that we were limiting the licenses, right? So the collective situation, but there was a sunset. So if no action is taken right now, the provision that allows collectives to exist in the law without the collectives just being illegal by their nature will expire,
Right.
right? So I can tell you.
So it would be criminalized.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
In a system that is trying to do social justice.
Well, so we're just trying to
Right,
attempt it.
right.
If we fail, that's what I mean, is like,
Right.
organizing is gonna be very important right now, because there are other people who are introducing other bills, right? So my way is not the only way. And my way is not even gonna be my way in the end, because once you put a bill in the legislative process, you really don't have the most control over how the thing comes back, right? The way I try to think of it is like, I return the kickoff, and then when we get like to the 5-yard line, then I can try to punch it in, but you don't really know what's gonna happen, you know, as you're driving down the field. If you guys don't play football, I don't know, that's all I got is football metaphors, right? But what I can tell you is that the attempt that we put forward last year was primarily focused on trying to provide an opportunity for small farmers who grow cannabis to enter a regulated system, right? To be formally permanently legalized, but to provide the public with the consumer protection opportunity to ensure that when you go to a cannabis establishment, that what you're buying is cannabis, right? That it's regulated, that they're operating legally, that that organization is following all the rules that commercial entities have to follow, like they are ensuring security, that they are ensuring that bushels don't fall off the back of the truck, that they're ensuring that they're not selling to kids, right? That they're accounting for a lot of the problems that have taken place over the years in other states that led to things like the Cole Memo, right? So it's a messy process. The best way to ensure that your specific priorities are gonna get accounted for in the legislation is to just stay involved. And I know that's a really difficult, cumbersome thing, especially for Kuaina to do, right? That's part of why we went to Keane during the pandemic and said, we gotta go online with our legislative process the way Maui County did. The reason the state legislature is on YouTube right now is because of Keane Rawlings. Right? So, but it's, you know, I mean, the democratic process is messy. I'm not saying there aren't gray areas, right? But the more people are engaged and paying attention and participating, you know, in the specific minutia of what we're talking about, the better.
So out of the House of Representatives on the Democratic side, is there anybody that you can think of that would be interested into getting behind Ava's bill? Even though if he may not even present it, he may look for somebody else.
So, I don't know, and so that's part of the, I mean, like, if this is something that you guys, everybody here are truly deeply invested in, then like I said yesterday on a panel, like, you gotta get organized, right? What is your individual personal commitment and capacity to lead the charge on this, right? If you don't have the resources or the know-how, there are resources here to help start, right? Or you can hui up with whoever else is going, because there are people that are already, you know, on the same wavelength, right?
Do you find it odd that Jason got federally raided in the midst of?
I do not, but what I do find odd is that he hasn't been arrested.
Right.
That's what I do find odd.
Right, and so in this environment right now, for the federal government to step in that fashion,
Right.
and to make an example of a medical.
So at this point, there's not enough information
Right.
available to understand what is going on.
Nobody understands.
But what I would expect is that if federal law enforcement agency raided a private property, seized items on that private property, that whatever they seized, they have they are supposed to, by law, be able to tell a judge the items they seized are connected with a suspected crime, and that the judge should expect some sort of legal action, criminal legal action, to take place shortly thereafter the seizure. So if those plants die, and we still don't have a charge, then there are gonna be a lot of questions.
A lot.
A lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
Right, and I don't know the specifics of what's going on. I am going to assume that the FBI is not watering Jason's plants right now. So, you know, I just had this discussion with other members of the Hawaii State Senate earlier in the week.
Right.
Because when federal action, law enforcement action is taken, especially as it relates to cannabis, because when the dispensaries bill was passed in 2015, part of the specific reason why that thing was so restrictive was to account for the federal government's concerns enumerated in the Cole Memorandum. Right? We passed the most airtight Cole Memorandum compliant piece of legislation in the country. And as a result, the medical dispensary system is as screwed up as it is right now. Right? Even the dispensaries do not like it. Right? And it does not work as effectively as it could or should. And that's the reality of the situation we're in right now. So, you know, I'm really not as comfortable to tell you like what I think is gonna happen or even what I think the right thing is. Part of the reason why I participated was to give you guys my best understanding with them collectively on where we at right now, right? And what the timeline is and what the process is going forward, so that everybody here who has an opinion all has the same information and can make choices appropriately from there. I don't know where the house is, I'm not in the house anymore. I have a lot of friends there, but they haven't, you know, they're a separate chamber, they have their own process, and I have to respect it as a senator. You as members of the public have your own access to the House of Representatives. And you might be able to convince them of things that I don't agree with either, right? That's the way the process is supposed to work, but it doesn't work well if nobody's paying attention or participating.
We are at time. I know we have a question, but feel free to come chat with us. I'm certainly gonna hang around for a little bit. I know Carrie Ann's gonna hang around for a little bit. And please extend our mahalo to our panelists. Oh, yeah, great against Jason's. Reminds me of the oh, of course, reminds me of the raid. Years ago.
We'll walk.